Well, football fans, the Big D is starting his divisional breakdown. Tonight we've got the AFC West. We're talking Chiefs, Raiders, Broncos, and Bolts. It's the AFC West on the Big D podcast. Before I tell you all things AFC West, please subscribe, like, and share the Spunky Spectrum Sports YouTube page, where it might be a baseball stream, it might be UFC, baseball, boxing, NASCAR, golf, hockey. Never know what sport's going to appear. Also, check out the Big D podcast for the audio listeners, Spotify and Apple. So are joining us. The only guy who thinks he can outdrive Bryson DeChambeau, stop a Lionel Messi penalty, and pick six Pat Mahomes in the Super Bowl. I wonder who that could be.
Hey Dylan, thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure to be back on the show, and I can't wait for to kick off this NFL Divisional Preview. I'll start with the AFC West, of course, and the reigning champion, back-to-back champion Kansas City Chiefs. In regards to my accolades there, according to my driver, it's a consistent club in my bag. Bryson DeChambeau, maybe not so much. Messi penalty. I'm going to leave that be. And what was the last one?
Pick six Pat Mahomes.
Oh, yeah, I got that all day. I'm going to bait him towards the inside and cut off the out route. I got you.
And not only that, but Travis Kelce was like, "What the bleep did that idiot do catching my pass?"
Yep, I'm going to waltz in the end zone and give a big wave to Taylor Swift in the crowd.
Oh, you idiot!
You told me not to bring it up, but I had to.
Darn you. So, as everybody knows, the Kansas City Chiefs won the last two Super Bowls. How the Chiefs have won the last two Super Bowls after trading Tyreek Hill. But the Kansas City's going for its third straight Super Bowl. Pat Mahomes, let's see. Pat Mahomes, MVPs, Super Bowls, commercials, dad bod. What else would you want? What else do you want? And he's 27, 28 years old. It seems like this feels. I don't know what to say about the Chiefs right now. This feels like we're in the dynasty of the Chiefs. We saw what New England did in the first decade and a half plus of the new millennium. This feels like the 2020s could be Kansas City's decade, right?
Yeah, it definitely looks like it. Obviously, when you're talking about a team who's won back-to-back Super Bowls, the word dynasty is automatically going to start getting thrown around, especially when it comes to the NFL when there's so much parity. Not as many super teams, I'd say. Anyone could beat anyone in the NFL, as they say, on any given Sunday. But you've got to say, with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, it's got to be one of the greatest, probably top two quarterback coach combinations in NFL history. And they're always a threat to win the Super Bowl if you've got those two guys on your team.
What makes Kansas City the best? Is it the coach? Is it the quarterback? Is it Travis Kelce? Or some combination of all three of them?
Yeah, I definitely think you've got to say it's a combination of all three. That was kind of the big debate throughout the New England dynasty that you mentioned previously. But, I think it kind of, was a big back and forth when it comes to New England. Was it Brady? Was it Belichick? Obviously, in that situation, you have to give credit to both of them. In my opinion, at the end of the day, I think it was more Tom Brady when it comes to that dynasty. He's obviously, regarded as the greatest quarterback of all time at this point. And I look at Bill Belichick's track record, pre Tom Brady. He obviously didn't have very much success in Cleveland. After Brady retired, of course, it's hard to replace the GOAT, but he did nothing close to the sort of replacing him. He was pretty much in the cellar of the AFC, ever since Tom Brady left. So, I think it's a little bit more clear cut in that case. I think as great as the head coach Bill Belichick was, Tom Brady was, I think, the main motivator behind that success. With the Kansas City Chiefs, I really do truly think it's a blend of all of their pieces. Patrick Mahomes is already entering the discussion as one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, and he's still, young as young as he is. But Andy Reid, I mean, he's been in the game for so long, and something that Bill Belichick couldn't necessarily say is Andy Reid had success before Patrick Mahomes. I mean, he took the Eagles to a Super Bowl, and we've seen what Andy Reid can do from the coaching seat, and of course Travis Kelce. I mean, he's one of the greatest tight ends of all time. There's been pieces here and there. Obviously, they had Tyreek Hill, for the beginning of that stretch there, and they've even moved on to prove that they don't need Tyreek Hill to win championships. So I definitely think there's a lot of pieces that go in. You can't win a Super Bowl without it being a team effort. But really, truly, when it comes to the Kansas City Chiefs, I mean, they've got those three pieces who are in the conversation of greatest, in their respective positions. And I really do think that we see that, and just the offense that we see from the Kansas City Chiefs. It's so intricate. It's so unique. I mean, you kind of had an idea of what the New England Patriots were going to do with Tom Brady. You just couldn't stop it. With the Chiefs, you don't know what they're going to do, and you can't stop it even if you think you did. So I really do think that it's a true culmination of all three of those pieces, as well as the other aspects of the team that make them so dominant.
Yeah, in a way, unlike Bill Belichick, it seems like Andy Reid's offense has evolved. I mean, we've seen him make 5 NFC Championship games with Donovan McNabb. Heck, the Eagles made the playoffs with Jeff Garcia under center. And in Kansas City, Alex Smith, Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill. And then the Chiefs run the ball and play good defense. And I'm like, Andy Reid running the ball? Andy Reid running the ball, that'd be like the New England Patriots drafting a wide receiver in the first round.
Yeah. I mean, even when Mahomes was hurt, we saw Chad Henne step in and look like he could control that offense. And Miami Dolphins
don't remind me of that playoff game.
Yeah. So there's something in the water over there in Kansas City that really have it figured out when it comes to not only offense but organized football as a whole.
By the way, wasn't Chad Henne a former Miami Dolphin draft pick?
Yeah, he sure was, and he wasn't playing in playoff games like he was for Kansas City back when he was wearing the 7 in aqua and orange. But we as much as signed to any of our Dolphins quarterbacks, we always think that one's going to be the next great one. We saw it with Chad Henne, we saw it with Ryan Tannehill. Obviously, we're talking about it now with Tua, who I think is pretty clearly had the most success of the group. But we thought Chad Henne was going to be the next big thing. It didn't necessarily work out for us in Miami, but glad he got a ring and even found a little bit of playoff success there with the Chiefs.
Yeah, when he threw that touchdown pass in the divisional round against my Jags. Oh, don't remind me.
Sorry about that, bud.
At least we didn't have to play Kansas City in -30 wind chill. It was snowing, but temperature was okay for January.
Yeah, well, the Dolphins should have never had an away game going into the playoffs, but that's a story for another day. We can talk about that in our AFC East preview.
Oh, I'm sure you're still throwing out from that game.
I'll tell you what. I mean, I don't want to spend too much time talking about it. That game wasn't the one that disappointed me. I knew we had 0% chance winning that game. It was the Tennessee Titans and Buffalo Bills games that did it for me. So, but again, I digress.
Don't remind me, the Titans knocked all sorry butts out of the playoffs too.
Yeah, not too big of a fan of that team these days.
Yeah, Derrick Henry. I'm glad he's in Baltimore.
I mean, I'm not. That's going to be a scary offense as well. But again, that's going to be a conversation for our AFC North preview.
Well, I mean, Kansas City this year. I mean, I don't know how the Chiefs managed to keep Chris Jones, but what do you think about Kansas City's chance of making history? Because as you know, no NFL team has won 3 straight Super Bowls. I mean, teams come close. I mean, I think Miami got the 3 straight Super Bowls in the early 70s. New England went to 3 straight Super Bowls, 51, 52, and 53, winning the one against the Matty Ice and the Falcons and Jared Goff and the Rams, losing to the Eagles. Can the Chiefs do what no other team has done and win 3 straight?
Yeah, if there's anyone who can do it, I would look at the Kansas City Chiefs at this day and time. They made a lot of good moves. Can they? Absolutely, they can. Here's the thing I'll say about the Chiefs this season. They made a lot of additions that I'm really excited about. They also had a couple losses, that's definitely going to hurt them. One thing I will definitely say about the Chiefs is within the last 2 years, I think people had kind of taken the Chiefs for granted a little bit. Obviously, that first Super Bowl of the back-to-back, they're moving on from Tyreek Hill. I think everyone kind of had downward expectations of them. And no one necessarily expected them to be as great as they ended up being as Super Bowl contenders. And even going into last season, there was some critics of the Chiefs and didn't expect them to be able to return to the glory that they had from the previous year. I think all of that's done and dusted. I don't think anyone's putting any sort of doubt or question as in regards to the Kansas City Chiefs coming into this season. What that means is you're going to get everyone's best football. Of course, you want to think that you're going to get everyone's best football week in and week out, but there's always a little bit of extra juice when you're going up against the reigning champions as well as now the two-time reigning champions. So teams are going to give it everything they got, but I look at what they did this offseason. Obviously, they lost L'Jarius Sneed, which I definitely think is going to be a piece that's going to hurt them a little bit. But how about bringing in Hollywood Brown? I mean, I just think him and Xavier Worthy, obviously, that they picked up from the draft, that's going to help Patrick Mahomes so much. I mean, the number one thing we were talking about the Chiefs last season was their weapons and their pass catchers. Outside of Travis Kelce, they really didn't have anyone who would be a guy that you would expect to be a number one receiver or even a number two receiver, especially on a defending championship team. And they still won the Super Bowl. Now you bring in a speed demon like Hollywood Brown. I mean, it's got to give defenses flashbacks to the Tyreek Hill days. And, another weapon in Xavier Worthy. It's just going to add so much dimension to that offense. It's going to add so much fire and speed, in that receiving room. And it's an offense that I'm not going to be looking forward to playing against, that's for sure. To answer your question, they absolutely do have a chance. I think that the pieces that they added, are definitely good enough to get them back in the conversation for sure.
And plus, maybe one of the most underappreciative X factors for the Chiefs, Isaiah Pacheco. Because, I mean, how Brett Veach does a great job finding these guys. I mean, Pacheco is 7th-round running back. I'm like, unless you get Christian McCaffrey in the first round, don't draft a running back in the first round. Isaiah Pacheco, that guy. I wouldn't want to tackle that guy.
No, I mean, I wouldn't want to be anywhere in the path of him running. I mean, the way he just slams his feet on the ground, it just looks like he's ready to run over anyone who comes in front of him. So he's a great piece. It's really added another layer to the Kansas City Chiefs offense. I mean, they've had some decent running backs in the past, but no one who can really elevate their offense like he does. And he's a dangerous force. He's going to be going high in fantasy drafts for sure. And, he's a great element to that offense to give them a little bit of some run relief, to help out Patrick.
Are the Kansas City Chiefs the NFL's most hated team? Not just because of the Super Bowls, the stall quarterback, stall tight end, stall coach, but we've seen teams in other sports, the Golden State Warriors, the Dallas Cowboys, whether baseball, maybe the Yankees, or some of these great hockey teams. Are the Kansas City Chiefs the NFL's most hated team?
I mean, at the moment, I think it's a definite yes. I mean, everyone's going to hate greatness. Everyone's going to hate the team that they can't beat. And teams have sure had some trouble beating the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, maybe not the regular season. They've taken some losses, but when it comes to playoff time, it seems like they're unbeatable. So I'd say at the current moment, it's a pretty easy answer. But in regards to NFL history and NFL lore, it has to be the New England Patriots. I mean, I know that especially with the Travis or with the Taylor Swift stuff, people are pretty frustrated with the Chiefs when it comes to the media attention and Taylor Swift and her being on TV all the time. But the New England Patriots did it for so long, and they just seem so smug about it. At least Andy Reid, he's a likable guy. I think he's a coach that people don't mind. Even though, yes, he's had this great success, I think people genuinely like Andy Reid. Even Patrick Mahomes, I mean, he's not – I don't consider Patrick Mahomes a guy who's easy to hate. I mean, you look at Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. I mean, you've got the grumpy old man who never smiles and the what do you want to call it, the diva quarterback with perfect hair who's dating a supermodel. I mean, it looks like he should be on the cover of Vogue. all the cheating scandals that the Patriots have been involved in. I think it has to be the Patriots as the most hated team, just because of how long they did it, because of the allegations, and because of, it's, as much as I hate to say it, the front men of that organization just seem to be a little bit more hated than, I think Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are, even if you add in the Taylor Swift, kind of sideshow there. But, I think all time, currently, it's got to be the Chiefs, but all time, maybe it's my bias because I was, a division rival with the Patriots for so long, but it really just seems like people got super tired of the Patriots.
I'm surprised you wouldn't say the Cowboys because with the owners especially, I mean, everybody, you either love the Cowboys or you love to hate the Cowboys.
Yeah, I mean, the Cowboys definitely have – I think the biggest thing about the Cowboys is the fact that they call themselves America's team without really, I think, any valid reasoning behind it. I don't know where that nickname came from, to be honest. I should probably do – I'm sure you probably know, but it doesn't make sense to me. I mean, Dallas isn't the capital of the country. It seems like a very successful branding and marketing campaign that really paid off for them. But to be honest, the Cowboys – I mean, yes, they've had success in the past, but it seems like in recent history, within the last 10, 15, 20 years, they're choke artists when it comes to the playoffs. And it's not that, in my opinion, you can't be hateable if you're not dominating. And I haven't seen enough success from the Cowboys. To me, they're practically irrelevant. They're in the NFC and they can't get it done when the playoffs come. So it's not a team that I really see. I see why people hate them, but other than the America's team thing, it's just a team that, is basking in vintage glory, I guess you could say.
I was 3 when the Dallas Cowboys won Super Bowl 30 in Tempe, Arizona.
Yeah, and what have they? I mean, every time I think about the Dallas Cowboys, I think about Tony Romo fumbling that hold for the field goal, and to me, that's laughable. It's not something I hate. It's not something that angers me. It's something that just makes me kind of feel bad for him almost.
Only the Cowboys would lose to Jordan Love in a home wild card playoff game.
Yeah, it's I don't think they're good enough for people to hate that much. Like I understand that people hate the Cowboys as a brand, and as you said, the owner, I think Jerry Jones has a big part of that. They marketed the cheerleaders. I think they've got a great marketing team. That might be, even throughout the decades, and that might be why people hate them so much because they've been kind of on the forefront of people's minds. It's the logo you're so used to seeing, but to me, it doesn't touch the Patriots. I mean, you have Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. You've got the cheating scandals. You've got the Super Bowls. That just seems to be such an easy team to hate, especially as a Miami Dolphins fan. But I think, as far as Kansas City, there's not too much you can say about it. I know we talked about it for quite a bit there, but the deal when it comes to Kansas City, to the Kansas City Chiefs. I think it's time we move on to one of the two teams who have relocated recently in the division. We're going to go down to Vegas and, go to the Strip and talk about the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah. Raiders are very interesting heading into this season. I mean, I bet your Raider fans and players especially are happy that Antonio Pierce is coaching the Raiders and not Josh McDaniels because I don't know about you, but Josh McDaniels was not good as Raider head coach.
Nope. He sure wasn't.
I mean, even though I don't like Antonio Pierce as head coach, it sure seemed like the Raiders played really hard for him.
Yeah, they sure did. I mean, that was a big thing. I mean, we saw numerous players on the team vouching for Antonio Pierce when they were in the head coaching search after the season ended. They were making it very known that they wanted Antonio Pierce to be the head coach, and I think that says a lot about the guy. And at the end of the day, like, yes, you can look at X's and O's. Yes, you can look at win history and what have you done in the past. And I'm sure they definitely could have found a more at least on paper successful candidate. But one of the hardest things, in my opinion, to do as a new coach is earning the trust of your locker room. I mean, especially with a franchise who hasn't had too much success, even though they've had some high name, high caliber players on their team recently. You have to have a coach who can connect with the players, who the players will want to play for. And it's very clear and obvious that Antonio Pierce is a guy that the players of the Raiders, want to see at the helm and want to, play hard for.
So 3 words or less. Can Antonio Pierce beat 3 Super Bowl head coaches, Andy Reid, Sean Payton, and Jim Harbaugh?
Not them all.
No, no, no.
Well, that sure sounds like to me you have the Raiders in the cellar of the AFC West. I don't know. We haven't gotten to our rankings part of this episode yet, but it's not a great, not great 3 words if you're a Raiders fan that you want to hear to the answer to that question.
Well, you know what? You know what also hurts the Raiders? They probably have the worst quarterback in the division because whether it's Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew, I'm not the biggest fan of Vegas's quarterback situation. Who do you think starts Week 1?
I think it's got to be Gardner Minshew. I think he's the better quarterback, and honestly, you said,
He's second.
yeah. I mean, you said they've got the worst quarterback situation in the division. There's another team we haven't talked about yet, who I think is, there's more hope there, and we'll get there in a minute. But Gardner Minshew he's obviously not a top tier starting quarterback in the NFL. He's probably more of a backup to back half starter in the league, but he's a guy who gets the fans excited. People love Gardner Minshew. Obviously, that doesn't translate to success on the field, but it helps keep the mentality of the fans, which is huge. You don't want the fans to turn it on you. And I think he's serviceable. I mean, he's not the future of the Raiders. He's not, the guy who's gonna, that they're gonna build a franchise around. He's the guy who's there for now. But I think Gardner Minshew is good enough to get him a couple wins. I think they've got some pieces on the team who can steal a couple wins out of some games. I don't see much from Aiden O'Connell. He's still young, but I do think Gardner Minshew starts Week 1, and it gives him a shot at least to be competitive in a couple games that. I don't think that they're going to be going and beating the Kansas City Chiefs. I think they'll probably get swept by him, to be honest. But I don't.
I mean, somehow the Raiders won on Christmas Day, and Aiden O'Connell threw for what, the 70 yards?
Yeah, I mean they don't have Josh Jacobs anymore, who had one of the probably the best season of his career last season. I think they picked up Alexander Madison, who's definitely a decline at that position there. So it's going to be, it's not going to, you don't have too much to look forward to as a Raiders fan this season, but, there's another team in this division who, I think is in a similar boat.
I mean, does Davante Adams end the season in Las Vegas? Because, I mean, I don't know if Davante's what he was 3 or 4 years ago, but, I mean, he's still a productive veteran, durable wide receiver, but I don't know if Adams ends the season in Vegas. I mean, and does he want to work with a young quarterback?
Yeah. I mean, obviously everyone knows his attachment to Derek Carr. I mean, they were, college roommates and that was his guy. The Raiders have obviously moved on from Derek Carr. And, I know that was one of the main reasons that Davante Adams wanted to be there in the first place. So, he's definitely a name to watch when it comes to the trade market and, him moving on to somewhere else. But, at the very least, they stole a dominant piece of the Miami Dolphins defense and bringing in Christian Wilkins. And, if I can tell you anything about that man, he can disrupt the run and he can get to a quarterback. So it's at least a nice addition on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, I wish him all the success there, and it's going to be a big plus to that defense. But, it's obviously not enough to be even contending for the division.
Why are the Raiders signing defensive line when they need wide receivers and O-linemen?
Yeah, they need a lot of things. It's tough when you're in a division with the 2-time defending Super Bowl champions, and B, when you have more pieces than the draft and offseason is going to be able to allow you to fill. But you got to start somewhere, and Christian Wilkins, I mean, he's a great talent. He's going to do great things in Vegas. I'm very confident in that. But you're definitely right. They definitely have more holes that doesn't look like they necessarily filled. And if they did try and fill them, it's definitely not with an improved replacement. So there's going to be a lot of work to do in that Vegas locker room.
Tell you what, I like the Raiders tight ends. I mean, Brock Bowers, Michael Mayer, And then defensively, Max Crosby plays harder, just as hard, if not harder, than any defensive end in the NFL. Don't get Max Crosby in the octagon. He will take you down. He will submit you, and then he will dance on you.
Yeah, you're exactly right about that. And Christian Wilkins will do the same thing. I mean, I'll tell you what, teams might have some trouble running against that team because those are two pieces that any team in the NFL would be very happy to have as on their defensive line. So, they've got some pieces. As I kind of said before, do I think they did enough to contend for the division? Absolutely not. Do I think that they're going to be one of the worst teams in the league? I don't necessarily think that as well. I think we're looking at a mid to bottom tier team, but I don't see them with a top 3 draft pick next season.
So we go from Vegas to the Rocky Mountains, where the Denver Broncos are next. So Russell Wilson gone. Denver selected Bo Nix with the 12th overall pick. Brought in Zach Wilson. Sean Payton in year 2. So Sean Payton's got his guy. One, does Bo Nix start opening day for the Broncos? Because this is a guy who started 61 college games between Auburn and Oregon. This guy's played in big bowl games, played in hostile environments. I mean, you go to some of those SEC games, he's played in Iron Bowls, played in the Civil War, playing Fiesta Bowl. So this guy's seen a lot. I've got to think Bo Nix starts opening day, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a tough situation because the problem is, what you have in Zach Wilson. Everyone knows what Zach Wilson is. We saw it on the Jets. He got benched. He comes back. He has a chance to prove himself. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers goes down, and he sees the field more than he expected to last season. But it's still, we know what Zach Wilson is, and it's not a very good NFL quarterback. At least with Bo Nix, you have the hope of a rookie coming in. You never know when it comes to rookie quarterbacks. You think you got everything figured out. Everyone expects Caleb Williams, to be, at least better than Bo Nix, but you never know. It's the quarterback position in the NFL. It's one of the hardest things to predict, and that's why that's why the Mr. Irrelevant has been taking a team to NFC Championship games and Super Bowls. So, it's impossible to know. That the danger there is you really in a catch-22 because you're not going to win football games with Zach Wilson. You know that. It was surprising to me. It was surprising to me to even see them bring him in because I don't even think he's a very capable backup quarterback. But on the flip side of that, do you want to throw a rookie quarterback in, week 1 of an NFL season and really not get the chance to, develop his skills in practice and really get a look, from the sidelines of the speed of an NFL game? I mean, it really is a catch-22. It's not like he's really going to be learning too much under Zach Wilson, unfortunately. I don't think that the things that Zach Wilson can pass along is something that you want Bo Nix to hold on to, but it's such a tough situation. I think you have to because, again, like I said, you know what Zach Wilson is. At least with Bo Nix, you have potential, but it's always a risky decision starting a rookie quarterback week 1.
I don't know. I mean, I would expect rookie quarterbacks to start in Chicago, Washington, quite possibly Denver. I don't think a rookie quarterback starting in New England because the Patriots can't get anything right offensively. I don't think Penix is starting in Atlanta. We know why. And I don't think J.J. McCarthy's starting in Minnesota, but Sam Darnold will start week 1. But I think Bo Nix, I mean, you know what you're getting. He's smart. He's accurate. He's athletic. I believe in Sean Payton. I believe in Bo Nix. And I'm telling you right now, I think the Broncos really improved second half of the year. I mean, you remember the Miami Dolphins didn't beat the Denver Broncos in week 3 last year. They hung up. Wait, I'm trying to remember. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 touchdowns. Did I miss one?
You didn't. I think you caught all of them. I mean, you could watch the highlights from that game, and I think it might be 25 minutes long because it was just that much scoring out of Miami.
What? And 22 minutes came from Miami touchdowns.
Yeah, it's that And to be fair to the Broncos, yes, I mean we hung 70 points on them. We could have broken the record for most points in an NFL game. You never want to be on that side of history, but we did see the Denver Broncos improve throughout that from that point in the season. They won some games that you didn't expect, that you would have never expected them to win.
Buffalo,
And, yeah, Buffalo. I mean, they beat the Chargers very handedly.
Chiefs.
The Chiefs, they beat Green Bay too, didn't they?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So I mean, they definitely improved off of last season. And here's the big thing: like obviously, the Sean Payton, Russell Wilson, situation did not work. I think Sean Payton took the job. He wanted to get back in the NFL, and for whatever reason, it just wasn't clicking. Between the two of them working together, we saw a disappointing play from Russell Wilson, and it just didn't seem to be Sean Payton's guy. Now we have a chance. Sean Payton's the head coach. They draft a quarterback. All intents and purposes, that's Sean Payton's guy. He was in the draft room as the pick has been made. So we really get to see an opportunity to see what Sean Payton can do, with an offense that he's going to be trying to mold by himself. I think they've got a lot of work to do. And, they also lost, some pieces. Obviously, Jerry Jeudy, I think they replaced with Josh Reynolds, which in my opinion is a downgrade for sure. I think anyone would probably consider that.
I think that's an upgrade. Jerry Jeudy's been a bit disappointing.
Yeah,
It's the true number one in Denver.
But Josh Reynolds, I mean, I've seen some moments from him, but is he a guy who can really, special? I mean, is he a guy who can lead a wide receiver room? I mean, I'd like Josh Reynolds as my wide receiver 3, but I mean, I know Cortland Sutton's there as well, so he's going to be probably the 2 there. But like I said, I would be happy with Josh Reynolds as a wide receiver 3 and nothing more than that.
I think Josh Reynolds may be the wide receiver 4 because Marvin Mims didn't really play a lot last year. He could be really good. And one of my favorite rookies that I've been talking in best ball drafts, and trust me, Alex, you know me because one of us does like 8 million best ball drafts. I like me some Troy Franklin.
Yeah.
The rookie from Oregon.
Yeah. Now you've been all over the best ball rookie receivers, and I think you could write a book on best ball players to target this season, which we might touch on a little bit later in the episode. But it's going to be an interesting team for the Broncos. Like I said, they definitely improved on the second half of the season last year, but they still let the Miami Dolphins drop 70 points on them. I think we're at the very beginning of a rebuild. They've also got some holes like the Raiders that, I don't think is going to, put them in any sort of contention, for the division, let alone, a playoff spot. But, there's at least some hope there with a rookie quarterback and Sean Payton, hopefully, for Broncos fans' sake, being able to work some magic there.
Where does Patrick Surtain Jr. rank in terms of cornerbacks?
I mean, I think he's obviously top 5. I think, it's not really a debate there. Where you want to put him on 5? I mean, I think the fact that, if you're talking about wanting to build a franchise now and, looking at him as a young asset to a team who, I'll take Jalen Ramsey over Patrick Surtain. However, if you're building a franchise, you obviously you're going to want to go with the younger guy. I think Patrick Surtain has a very strong argument as a top 3 cornerback in the NFL. Is he number 1? Some people might put him there. I don't know if he's necessarily at that, elite level of his game. He's excellent. I'm not downplaying Patrick Surtain. As I said, I think he's the top 3 corner in the league. If you're building a franchise, he jumps up the list. If you're talking about raw talent, like I said, I'll take a guy like Jalen Ramsey, to win if I've got one play in a Super Bowl and I got to pick someone to cover the team's best receiver, give me Jalen Ramsey right now. But when it comes to building a team and having that youth and really being able to grow, he's an elite talent for sure.
I'll tell you what right now. I think Sauce Gardner may be the NFL's most overrated player.
Yeah.
I think Patrick Surtain Jr. is really good. And you know what? If I want a cornerback for one play, I think the Chiefs still have the number 1 corner.
Yeah.
They didn't trade him to the Titans. Watch him be a top 3 cornerback this year. I can't think of his name. The slot corner.
I know who you're talking about, but his name slipped my mind too. I was hoping you would say it to refresh my memory, but that's all right.
And by the way, I think the Broncos are a sneaky playoff contender this year. With that coach, I know, and maybe I'm high on Bo Nix and others, but I think Bo Nix right out of the way will be fine.
Yeah. They also brought in, we were just talking about the secondary. I mean, he's not a name that many heads around the NFL will know too well, but they brought in a safety, Brandon Jones from Miami, who I'll tell you what, I was very disappointed to see Brandon Jones leave because he was a great compliment to Javon Holland, and he made some plays for the Miami Dolphins defense. He had some injury concerns. He wasn't able to be on the field, his entire tenure with Miami, but he's a great player, and the Broncos got a sneaky pick up there with Brandon Jones, and he's definitely going to help that defense. Obviously, in combination with Patrick Surtain, they've got some, and again, they've got some great pieces there.
So 3 teams down, 1 to go.
And what team may that be?
Well, it's got a big lightning bolt on the helmet.
Yeah, we will head over to the West Coast to the LA Chargers, a team who, I think you could fill an episode just talking about the Chargers themselves. There's so many storylines going around there. Definitely some disappointment. I think Dylan's got his hand raised, so I'll give you the floor.
Yeah, I think the Chargers have cost me more money than any team in the NFL. I mean, one of us was stupid enough to pick the Chargers as his Super Bowl team last year.
Yeah, I didn't agree with that pick when you gave it to me, and fortunately, my Bengals pick didn't pan out too well either. I think a lot of that had to do with Joe Burrow injuries, whereas the Chargers had a little less excuse there, but. At least they've moved on from Brandon Staley, Dylan. You've got to be so happy. I think at least half of the episodes that we had recorded after games last season, at some point you had mentioned how the Chargers need to fire Brandon Staley and that he's the worst coach in the NFL.
Yeah, so out goes Brandon Staley. In comes Jim Harbaugh, and let me tell you this. The Chargers are going to play big boy football, something we haven't seen from LA. Because every time the Chargers got a lead the last couple of years, guess what happened? They lost. Miami, Tennessee, Green Bay, the playoff game against Jacksonville, Week 18 against the Raiders. Every time Detroit, every time the Chargers win the close game, seemingly they lost.
Lost to Dallas game.
Don't remind me of that game too. But to be honest with you, the Chargers are not going to lose those close games this year. Jim Harbaugh's going to run the ball. They're going to play physical. They're going to hit you in the mouth. And to be honest with you, I don't care if Jim Harbaugh coached in college. Jim Harbaugh played in the NFL forever, knows the position, knows quarterback position. And I mean, he got Colin Kaepernick to the Super Bowl. Justin Herbert's the most talented coach Jim Harbaugh's ever seen. And let me tell you this: if everybody wants to diss on Justin Herbert, he's number 6 in my quarterback rankings coming in this year. And let me tell you this: the LA Chargers are going to the playoffs this year. Book it.
Dylan, I feel like we have this conversation every year. I understand the hype. I understand bringing in Harbaugh. I understand replacing Brandon Staley. And that's a massive upgrade, of course. But it just seems to me that the LA Chargers are perennial chokers. I mean,
the LA Chargers are not going to choke anymore.
And okay, like I know we talked about, they had all these close games and they lost all these close games, and it's hard it's hard to see that happening again. But I just see the roster, Dylan. I'm looking at they're one of the best wide receiver duos that we've seen in recent history between Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. Lost them both, and who they replaced them with? A rookie from second round pick Lad McConkey, who could be great. I think a lot of people have high expectations for him this season. partly because Justin Herbert's going to be throwing him the ball, and replaced him with DJ Chark. I mean, a second-round rookie who is a rookie who you can't necessarily have too high of expectations for. You never know, but again, they're rookies. You don't know what a rookie's going to bring to the NFL until you see it. And a guy who has kind of bounced around the NFL, who doesn't he does the screen number 2 receiver to me. And not only to talk about the receivers, who I think are massive downgrades, you look at the running back room. Obviously, Austin Eckler did not have a very successful season last year. It was one of the most disappointing, I think, fantasy seasons that we've seen in a long time, and just one of the most disappointing performances from a guy we expect always to be, a consistent performer in the league. And they replaced him with Gus Edwards, who, Gus Edwards isn't a sexy pickup. It's not, a Saquon Barkley or anything like that, or a Joe Mixon. But to me, it just, I understand the Chargers improved at head coach, which is massive. I mean, you can't take that for granted. But the talent on that team just seems to have dissipated. I know you have Justin Herbert. I mean, you lose Gerald Everett, who's a very strong tight end for you. You pick up Will Disley, who is mid, and to say the least. It just doesn't – just on paper and looking at that roster, it looks to me as a team that got worse – and a situation where they're still in the division with the Kansas City Chiefs. I just don't see the Chargers' path to success this season. I mean, you have a new head coach, and we've seen college coaches come into the NFL, and they have immense college resumes. Cough, cough, Nick Saban, and aren't able to get it done in the NFL. I know that he's already done it, with the 49ers and taken them to a Super Bowl, but that 49ers team had some weapons and had some talent. There are pieces in the LA Chargers, and you said they're going to be a playoff team. Book it. I mean, maybe sure the 7th wild card spot, but it's not a team that scares me. It's not a team that it didn't scare me last season. They got worse. So in my opinion, I don't see the Chargers as a significant threat this season. They're definitely not a threat to the Kansas City Chiefs for the division, and I see them maybe one game over 500, and that's about it.
I mean, watching Michigan the last 2-3 years, heck, there were halves Michigan didn't even throw the ball because they knew they were going to run. The other team knew they were going to run, and there was nothing you could do about it. The LA Chargers have been solved, and let me tell you this, the Chargers don't need wide receivers. You know what? If the Chargers run the ball 25, 30 times a day, again, guess what? Justin Herbert's not going to be getting his brains beat in every single week. He'll be healthier. The Chargers' offensive line will be healthy and more engaged. And guess what? The defense is going to be on the field because guess what? The offense will have 38 minutes time of possession.
But that just doesn't make sense to me because we talk about, okay, so the Chargers are going to run the ball. I understand Austin Eckler had a bad year last season. Maybe he could have turned it around this year. We'll find out in Washington. But to me, if you're going to implement this run-first philosophy, you got to bring in someone better than Gus Edwards. I mean, to me, it just sounds like if you're going to focus your offense on running the ball, you got to go and make a splash and get a running back who can be a bell cow dominant running back in the league. And you're telling me that the LA Chargers are going to be a run-first team and run the ball. Even if they're going to run the ball. But they have Justin Herbert as their quarterback. That's not painting the picture to me of a team that is going to find success in the NFL. If you're game planning your offense around the weaker part of your offense if I'm a Chargers fan, I want to see Justin Herbert throwing the ball. I don't want to see Gus Edwards running it the whole game. I mean, you took a quarterback 6 overall 3 years ago. He's been largely disappointing throughout the first, even though everyone knows Justin Herbert has the talent, but we're not seeing very much progression. The team as a whole, yes, Brandon Staley, this and that and this and that. I just don't see how you can transition to a run-first team with Gus Edwards as your number 1 running back and lose all of your star receivers. It just seems like they're putting Justin Herbert through hell almost.
Listen, we know you're a Justin Herbert hater because the Miami Dolphins foolishly took 2 and number 5. We know you all. We know you are a Justin Herbert trader.
Who led the league in passing last season?
Tua. But Miami threw the ball seemingly. But every time Miami threw the ball, Tyreek Hill was running an 80-yard touchdown. Jalen Warren was going for 50.
Yeah, because of Tua's throws. And don't try and tell me that he's a yak merchant, because Tua Tagovailoa's statistics have disproven that immensely at least for the majority. I don't know if he ended it, but he had the best air yards in the NFL. Those were deep throws that he was completing based on the scheming of Mike McDaniel. I mean, yes, he's got 2 fast wide receivers, but Justin Herbert had, again, Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, who were one of the greatest wide receiver duos in the league. I mean, it just, I don't know, Dylan. It just doesn't. I expect the Chargers to be better, and every season they just don't seem to put the pieces together to be a contender. You say, they book them in the playoffs, sure. Maybe they might get the 7 wildcard spot, but it's not going to be a team that impresses me.
I'll tell you what, the Chargers have a lot better playoff chance in my book than you Dolphins do.
See, Dylan, you called me a Justin Herbert hater. You, sir, are a Miami Dolphins and Tua Tagovailoa hater, and I'm excited for this season to prove you wrong. The Miami Dolphins have a complete offense. We can run the ball, we can pass the ball. We have 3 running backs. The Miami Dolphins have 3 running backs that are better than the starting running back for the Los Angeles Chargers, and they've got the better quarterback, the better wide receivers. The Dolphins, I guarantee you, and would put any bet on the house that the Miami Dolphins finish with a better record than the Chargers this season. Anything you want to gamble, I will put on the line. The Miami Dolphins, book it, will have a better record than the Los Angeles Chargers this season. They might double their win total this year.
All right, we've got a couple questions left.
Are we?
You asked the next one.
We're going into what you typed or the ranking?
You know what the question is.
All right, Dylan, I know the question. Who's winning the AFC West this year? It's not even a question.
Wait. That's the last one.
That's the last one. Okay. All right. I know you had kind of previewed a little bit earlier in the episode, but one of the things that obviously Dylan is a big fan of is best ball drafts. We talked about one from Denver that you're going to be a big fan of this year. I know you've probably done about 100 of them so far, and the people want to know, Dylan, who are some best ball players that you can target, either in the mid rounds, late rounds? Who are the guys that you want on that best ball roster that can give you an advantage going into your drafts?
Well, if you want the Chiefs, I'd probably say Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown. I think both of them got potential speed guys. I mean, I don't know whether or not Rasheed Rice will be suspended, but I mean, if Rasheed Rice doesn't get suspended, he could be a sneaky value. For the Chargers, Lane McConkey. I did a draft last night where I drafted Herbert with Lane McConkey. With the Raiders, I mean, maybe Zamir White or Alexander Madison, maybe my guy Dylan Lobb, the running back, and with the Chargers, probably. If you build Bo Nix, probably be a 3-quarterback team. Sutton, Greg Dolches, Troy Franklin. I don't mind taking shots on him. I don't want to have any more shares of the Broncos running back. Who's the one that tear his ACL a couple years ago?
Talking about Javonte Williams?
Yep, I don't want any more Javonte shares.
Yeah, I can't trust him this year either. I find it interesting. You left out one guy. I don't know if you did it on purpose or an accident. I'm not against you leaving him out because it's one guy we talked about earlier for the Raiders, Brock Bowers. I think, in my opinion, he will. I think he will be a strong fantasy asset this season. But the problem is where he's falling in tight end rankings. I mean, he's kind of in a weird middle ground to where he's going, I think, too high than where he deserves to be going at this moment in time. And if you're going to draft a tight end in that range, you may as well wait and get someone, a couple rounds later and really kind of juice up the running back and receiver room. in that range where he's going. I don't think he's good enough to be going in the spot he is. I would take him, a couple rounds later, but I don't know if you left him off on purpose. I think it's good for you to leave him off just because, like I said, I think his ADP is a little too high, and I'd rather just wait on tight end if I don't have one at that point.
I'm generally going early tight end anyway. Like I did a team last night with I got Sam LaFleur in the 3rd round.
Wow, yeah, it's tight end's an interesting position this year. I mean, it's even last year. I mean, we saw Travis Kelce obviously is tight end 1, and he was going up as high as maybe top 5 pick in fantasy last year. Obviously, he had a bit of a regression. I don't think we're going to see him shooting up the rankings this high, but it's definitely going to be or this high this year. But it's an interesting position group in fantasy this year.
So lastly, Kansas City winning another AFC West, right?
Yeah, I don't think there's any debate about that.
If I could bet a nickel on any team winning its division this year, it's Kansas City. Give me the best coach, the best quarterback, the best GM, and the best tight end. The Chiefs are winning it, and give me that barbecue.
Yeah, it's the Chiefs are winning the AFC West. I mean, I think World War III would have to happen for that not to happen. I mean, even if Patrick Mahomes gets hurt, I still think that the Kansas City Chiefs could win that division. That's how great Andy Reid is. That's how great his weapons are. And I really don't think that there is any storyline that the NFL could write where the Kansas City Chiefs, especially with Taylor Swift on their side, they're still going to be milking that story.
Oh, no.
They are, Dylan. They're going to be milking it. It's going to be something that we're going to see. It's going to be something that we're going to hear about. And the NFL is not going to let the Kansas City Chiefs go down.
Oh, gosh. You had to end this episode with Taylor Swift. I'm not even going to say her name. Thanks for joining us on this AFC West preview. We will be back as we continue our divisional breakdown with the NFC West. So, Alex, 1 down, 7 to go.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, Dylan. Can't wait for football season. It's getting closer and closer, man. And it's great to kick off this division preview with you, starting with the AFC West. And we'll see you next with the NFC West. And, of course, as always, heads up.